Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobin. It's coming to you all the way from the top of a hill in the capital city of Ekiti State in the southwest region of Nigeria. And this is Ado Ekiti, the city of rolling hills. Look all around you, everywhere you look, there is a hill to be seen, and there are some hills sitting in the clouds. And this is the view from the top of the hill where the new governor's residence will be. Spectacular views here. His Excellency, the governor of the state, Kayode Fayemi, has brought me here to look at the whole of the city of Ado Ekiti. He says that the state deserves a befitting legacy in terms of government house, and that's what he intends to leave behind. Well, it's October 2012, and this government house will be ready, he says, in 18 months. He thought about this even before he started to dream about being governor. A lasting legacy of a government house that every person in Ekiti State can be proud of, and something that can be handed down from generation to generation. Well, it's his second anniversary as governor of the state. I asked Dr. Kayode Fayemi to show me 3 or 4 projects that can show the kind of work he's doing. Understandably, Ekiti State ranks 35th out of the 36 states that make up the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but that hasn't deterred him. Every time you open a newspaper here, you read stories about the quiet revolution people talk about going on in Ekiti State, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to see things for myself. But first, before we went on our walkabout or drive about, as the case may be, around the state capital and its environs, I engaged Dr. Fayemi in the governor's office in Ado Ekiti, and we spoke on federalism, roads, education, lynching, and the Ekiti State food ban. Welcome, Dr. Fayemi. Thank you for agreeing to spend another 60 minutes with me today.
It's good to have you back in Ekiti, Angela.
Would it make a difference, though, this war against terrorism that we're fighting, if we had state police? I know your views on that. You've made very clear. Would it be that simple to say, with state police in place, things wouldn't be this bad?
It would be simplistic to say that.
Yeah.
There are states where you have a federating police, let me call it that.
Yeah.
That is police at every level of the federation, where they still experience huge challenges with terrorism. I think it's failure of governance primarily. Yes. That we're dealing with. And I wouldn't say that it would be necessarily easier. What I can say, though, yes, is if it is brought to a level that is more manageable, intelligence would also be easier to gather. Because it is easy for me, and it happens there. Yes. If anything happens in major local government, yes, or Ekiti East local government, I get to know about it sometimes before the police informs me. Because I get information from the community. Somebody sends me an anonymous text.
And say, this is happening.
This is happening right now, Mr. Governor, in this community. And I call the police and say, I have just had, and the police will tell me, we've not had that, sir, but we'll check it out for you. That is the essence of local policing. Local policing gives people confidence to become the guardian. So, yes, so they are the guardians, they're the local monitors, and they would, if they have confidence
Yes.
in the supervising authority, they will provide the necessary information on time. And there is nothing that is much more fundamentally lacking now about the way we're fighting Boko Haram and its associated agencies, more than the fact that we don't have the right intelligence. Yes, we may have information that they're linked to some amorphous
body, yes.
Al-Qaeda somewhere.
Yes, yes.
But when you really sit down and ask them that, look, what is this connection? Direct, indirect, remote, immediate.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that our intelligence system has really come to terms with that. They're becoming increasingly more efficient, but there are still challenges.
There are still challenges. Now, we talked about how you fund the police, you buy vehicles for them and everything, and yet there's no improvement. How would the security situation be in your state if you weren't doing all those things for the police?
Frankly, nasty, short, and brutish. we would have been in some jungle.
Yeah.
I mean, even now that we do it,
it's still bad.
It's not the best. I mean, things are improving. We're in a unique situation, I must say. It is one of the most peaceful states in the country, so you cannot really compare us with others. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday,
Yes.
Professor Hope Egaga. He's a commissioner in Delta. He was kidnapped and just got released by kidnappers. And it was scary when he gave me what he went through. And he was kidnapped and kept right there in Delta State, right, in fact, there in Uroboland.
He didn't leave the
He didn't leave the state. So you have people in Nigeria who have the capacity to take the laws into their hands. And you see, when you have this level of privatization of violence,
yes,
it actually calls to question the existence of the state. Because the first duty of any state is security and safety of its citizens.
yes.
And when you are unable to manage that, you have to ask yourself what you're doing in office. And it's a question all of us that have been elected into this position should ask ourselves. But then, how do you blame a chief executive who is just a chief security officer in name only? How do you hold him accountable
Yes.
for something that he has no control over?
Wow. Okay. Closely related to this, obviously, the matter of the Alufo, I'm sure you've been following that.
I have been following that.
That also brought to mind something that had been bothering me, Madam Rebecca Adeomi of Omo Ekiti, the 70-year-old woman who was stoned to death for alleged witchcraft. And you talked earlier about how the failure of the state, may be connected to this, the kind of behavior that we see. What is the situation with Madam Rebecca's case now? And has anyone been arrested or prosecuted?
Oh yes, the case is in court.
Okay.
Oh, maybe you haven't followed it as closely as you thought you had. There's no way I cannot be governor here and allow such mindless orgy of violence to occur without any reaction from the state.
Yes.
Of course, we investigated. An autopsy was done. Some people were arrested, and some have been charged to court. Some have been released. It's an ongoing matter. I don't want to preempt
yes.
what the court would eventually say about it or not. But a strong message has been sent to everybody around the state that this will not be condoned. You cannot, for whatever reason, cultural, religious, traditional, whatever, you cannot subject anyone who has fundamental human rights, just as you do, to any form of intimidation, harassment, and violence.
Yes.
The type she was allegedly subjected to.
Yes.
So that message, I believe, is clear. And people know that we have a law in this state that prohibits gender-based violence.
I'm told if you beat your wife in Ekiti State, you
You
to
go
jail.
to, well, if you beat your spouse, because
Yes.
there are also cases of wives I've had who
beat the men.
so if you, let me put it in the safe form, if you beat your spouse
Yes.
and you get reported for that, well, you're on your own.
I'm happy you said you get reported. I can't imagine any man going to report at the police station that his wife has beaten him.
Well, it's entirely up to him. Then he would not expect justice if he's not prepared to do that.
Okay, so I'm very happy, Madam Adewumi, you know, that case is ongoing. Now, let's talk about what Tunde Fagbinde calls the quiet revolution going on in Ekiti State. I've read so much and you imagine that these things you're reading is just on paper. But I'm told that the federal government is owing you 6 billion naira for road works that you've done. How will you get that back? Considering, I'm looking at it from the point that this is an ACN government and there's a PDP government at the center. Would it be that easy for you to claim your 6
Well,
billion?
no, you know, there are ways in which this works. I don't, when you're the president of Nigeria, you're the president of all Nigerians.
Okay.
You're not president of party.
Yes.
And in fairness to President Jonathan on this matter, he's taking it up because we raised it. It was a major topic at the National Economic Council. And it's not just an ACN state like Ekiti, by the way.
Yes.
Akwa Ibom is owed, Rivers is owed. Virtually all of us are owed money. And again, it boils down to these feeding bottle federalism that we're practicing.
Yes.
Frankly, I don't know what the business of federal government is in maintaining roads in my state.
Federal roads, they call them.
I don't understand pardon my ignorance,
Yes.
but I don't understand the notion of federal road. Yes, some roads are very, very critical to the security of the country. The major arterial outlet from Lagos to all parts of the country is the Lagos-Ibadan road, the Benin-Shagamu-Ore road. Yes, you have some roads that would be like that. But when a road is intrastate, not interstate, what is the logic of it being called a federal road? I would expect that what we would do, hopefully, and very soon too, is a situation in which roads that come in to a state in the first instance stop being a federal road when you enter the boundary of a state. Federal government may want to be responsible for the portion that is between states. But internal to the states, I don't see how that would work. Rather, states are more likely to pay significant attention to the road because they're closer to the people. And the truth of the matter, Angela, is the people of Ekiti State don't know a federal road from a state road. They just want roads that work. And they blame me if the roads are not fixed.
Who cares if it's a federal road?
They don't care. They just want, this governor is not working. Full stop. So that's how I ended up fixing so-called federal roads. Of course, with the approval of the federal government, because if you're going to fix their roads, they have to be part of it. The federal controller of works, all of the people must come around and do their own technical survey, if you like.
That's how it works.
Oh, that's how it works. You can't just fix a federal road. Literally, you have to involve them. So, and because if they don't sign up to it, you can't get your refund. That's how it works. So you don't get paid. And the situation has become so bad that the president had to intervene, and another round of investigators was sent by the Federal Ministry of Works to look at all the roads we're claiming money for. That has happened now, at least in the last 2 months, and we haven't gotten any joy out of it. So we're waiting for our money, and I believe President Jonathan would not play partisan politics with these because he's president of all of us. And very soon, if we don't get the money, I shall be visiting him cap in hand to say, Mr. President,
my 6 billion.
We have a crisis situation at home. The money I should be using to pay Social Security, yes, I've used it to fix your roads. I'm pending the time that you give the roads back to the state. Because why is federal government fixing roads? Why are they buying books for states? Why are they building health centers for states? These are basics that states should be able to handle. That's why we're elected.
To do.
But it is again what I said earlier, the authoritarian streak, yes, that militarism has inculcated in us. Yes. It's still playing itself out in this country called Nigeria.
Still playing itself out. Join us again after the break.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Now, your recovery strategies in the sector of education. You said the quality of teachers was one of the recommendations of an education summit organized by you and chaired by the late Professor Sam Aluko. Looking at this now from the teachers' angle, why are you questioning their competence after they've been employed? That's the way it comes across. I've spoken to a lot of teachers about this. And, you know, why are you guys opposed to a competency test when our kids are failing so much exams? And they say, well, competence should have been established before being employed. It's like you're questioning the competence after employment. And it's like it's a scam to get rid of them through the back door.
I'm afraid not, Angela. I have no interest in getting rid of teachers who have been properly employed in the first instance and are doing a job of work that is satisfactory. The issue for us is a serious one. This state used to be known as the education capital of this country. But over the years, things have gone pear-shaped. I'm a product of this education.
You did all your schooling
here in this, well, there were no universities here then, so I didn't stay here for university education. But I went to school here, basic secondary school.
Yes.
The situation is terrible now. And asking teachers to brush up and find out what the issues are, yes, what the gaps are, it's not questioning the general qualification. But clearly, if the general qualification were enough, we wouldn't be having this level of failure. Let me give you a scary statistic. Last year, when I came in here, yes, as governor, my own school, clearly one of the best schools in this country, Christ School at Ekiti, yes, had a pass rate at the WAEC SSC examination of 20%. This is a school that consistently had 90, 100%. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, at least, that yes, the period I was there, probably even until the 90s. And I had 20% last year. This same school, this year, had 9%. That is 9% of the students that were presented in Christ School at Ekiti for WAEC,
yes,
passed with 5 credits, including maths and English.
Only 9%.
So that is only 9% qualified to go to university in Christ School. I'm not talking about other schools. Your guess is as good as mine what is happening in those other schools. But we have in this same Ekiti the Holy Child Catholic Secondary School, down the road from here. Mission school, yes, run by the Catholics. The bishop the Catholic bishop is the proprietor. That school had 99.3% last year.
What are they doing different?
Thank you. Last year, 99.3%. This year, 100%. In this same Ekiti. And I am told, talking about general qualification,
Yes.
the teachers that we have in the state system are better qualified on paper and better remunerated
Than the ones,
than
in
the
Holy
ones
Child.
in Holy Child. So your guess is as good as mine. What has happened? I don't hate teachers.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with teachers keeping their jobs. But for goodness sake, if you teach 50 students
Yes.
and they all fail the exam, it's your fault. If you teach 50 students and 40 of them pass, the 10 of them might just be no hopers.
Yes.
No one will really blame you for that. You've tried your best.
Yes.
But you cannot prepare 50 people for an examination and they all fail and you don't take any responsibility. I don't know anywhere in the world
Yes.
where this happens.
So how has it been resolved? Did they take the exam in the end? Did they
Oh, some of them
boycott the
did.
exam?
Some of them did. Some of them haven't. But ultimately, I assure them they will take the exams.
There's no going back on that
They
exam.
will take the exams.
All right, the deadline to private schools to register, October 2. You know, why did the state government feel the need to have private primary and secondary schools register? Is it for purposes of more taxation?
Not at all. Look, the people who go to private schools are also Ekiti citizens and residents.
Yes.
And they deserve to be treated well too. I mean, we may not have control over who sends his or her words to private school.
Yes.
But there are standards that we must still regulate. This is what happens everywhere. You have some private schools. Before we gave that deadline,
Yes.
we've already shut down some schools, about 156 of them, around the states, because they're not even good enough for pigs. These are pigsties that they call private schools, in which they are putting, these children have fundamental human rights too. And I would not be governor here and allow people, in fact, some are removing their children from such schools to our newly rebuilt and renovated schools.
Yes, and that's another thing I want to talk about. What is ORASE?
That's Operation Renovate All Schools in Ekiti.
Okay, Operation Renovate All Schools in Ekiti. How is that going?
It's going fabulously.
Are you getting people now coming from private schools?
Well, it's the stories I'm getting right now are anecdotal. We will still do the research because this is a new term.
Yes.
But our estimation is that we're going to have a net gain at the end of the day of people coming from private to public schools, because some of the things we offer there, the laptop computers, the better furniture, the support systems and facilities that we have in public secondary schools are probably even better than what they have in private secondary schools now.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the food bank. That's a new innovation. I've not heard about that in any state in Nigeria. Who is the target? Who are the people you're targeting with that?
You know, Angela, we may pretend as much as we want or like, but poverty is still very, very present. Even here in Ekiti, where our mantra and vision is to make poverty history in our state, there are still people who are what in the statistical developmental lingo are classified as the extremely poor, the really indigent people who cannot even eke out any living. They barely struggle on 100, what we used to call 100 when we were in the university.
Yeah.
Some, not at all. So the food bank is an idea in which those that have been properly screened
Yes.
and are certified to be thoroughly incapable of looking after themselves. It's a flip side of our social security to the elderly. And what the initiative is about is to provide food. In the first instance, I think we're catering to about 200 families. And they were the ones that we launched the initiative with.
Yes.
But our long-term vision is that we're going to get to a point,
Yes.
hopefully in the next 6 months, where we will have places around the state where those who are qualified would be entitled to at least one hot meal a day.
Yes, that's the 1 meal a day program.
Yes. It's part of the food bank too.
Okay.
But there are people who may not even be in a position to cook what we've given to them. So this is like going to Center Point in London.
Yes.
And you are homeless.
Yes.
You know that you're going to get
A hot meal.
a hot meal
Yes.
when you get there.
Yes.
So it's just to make sure that we lift everybody out of this poverty trap. And it's not just everybody that we're going to lift out of the poverty trap by giving jobs to. Some are not in a position to work.
Yes.
So we need a reality check to say, okay, fine, we would take care of these people. Whilst those who can work, we will look for avenues to ensure that they get the right skills to be able to fend for themselves and get a sense of belonging and a sense of self-worth, which is what is fundamentally lacking in many of our citizenry.
Well, I want to thank you very much for having me for 60.
Thank you, Angela, for
And once the
coming
formal
over again.
interview was concluded, it was time to see things for myself. And we're starting off with schools. There are 183 primary and secondary schools in Ekiti State. As of today, the first or second week of October, 100 schools have been renovated. The other 83, he says, will be completed by the month of December. So going into the new year, all schools in Ekiti will wear a uniform look with the red roofs for identity, and all the children will be happy to go back to school.
Teachers knew this was going to be done because this was a key recommendation of that summit.
Yes.
It's also about the learning environment being conducive to learning and to teaching as well.
Yes.
So by putting staff quarters that are properly furnished in place, and also classrooms that are attractive to teach. So this is a hall. For this hall, you cannot imagine what it was like before. How are you?
They have their own locker.
So they have their own locker, like old times. So
Wow.
you can padlock the...
I remember this with the ink.
Exactly. So they put these on and then make sure that and they can...
And it's one per person.
It's one per person. These are 40,000. So
At the cost of...
it's a cost of about...
all this iron.
also about 1.2
Billion.
Yeah.
Where did you get that from? You only get 2.5 every month.
That's what you're supposed to limit
Yeah, you
without
do.
offending.
Yes.
Because we can't be as generous
Yes.
with the resources of the state on social events when we have much more serious, pertinent issues to attend to.
Yes.
And what then happens is that money that is regarded as excess crude, for example,
Yes.
this is what we spend it on.
Okay.
Because that comes outside of the 2.5 billion we get
Yes.
every month.
Yes.
Even though we still regard that as a misnomer because it is our money.
Yes.
Instead of separating it and saying this is we have to make sure that that is set aside to do things that are tangible, things that are physical to see.
Yes.
So anytime we have, whether they call it Shopee or they call it excess crude,
yes,
we can tell you precisely what we have done with it in the state.
Well, we'll take a break now. Join us again after the break.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. It's still 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobi, and I'm still going around the state with His Excellency, the Governor and Chief Executive of the state. He's taking me around, showing me projects that he's proud to showcase on this second anniversary of him as Governor of the state. There's a question I want to ask you. Is it that you don't feel like cornering some of the money for yourself, or is it a state of contentment? I'm trying to understand why a state such as yours, with such limited funds, I've come in 1 year and the improvements I've seen in other states with much more money, I haven't seen that. So is it your contentment? Are you just content with life? You don't want to drive G-Wagon or...
Well, I have been an extraordinarily lucky person. I've been blessed in many respects. Even this is a blessing, having the opportunity to serve. I grew up as an activist. My life as a politician is really an extension of all of the things I fought for as an activist. So if I now have the opportunity not just to snipe at the fringes and to be on the barricades with placards, I actually have a concrete opportunity to walk my talk. What else could offer you the highest form of opportunity in life? So the idea of even cornering, for me, I see it in a selfish way. Let me put it that way. There is an enlightened self-interest that accompanies what I am doing. If indeed I have the desire to want to come back, it is the record that would sell itself. And even if I don't, that record would also propel me to other things, because people notice. Yes, they may be fastidious, they may want immediate benefits and gains, but ultimately they know that this has never happened. So they have kids who go to school here, even if they have their issues with me that, look, we don't see him on the roadside eating boli and drinking shekwe at all the joints. They come back to this. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I don't see politics as a business
do or die.
And as a do or die. But for me, the highest form of duty that you can offer society is public service. You don't get this opportunity, not even in business, not in the corporate sector, but to have the opportunity to use the resources that belong to the state for the people in the most direct manner. How then can you begin to think of cornering, or pilfering? I think it's leadership is sacrifice. And I'm benefiting anyway.
Can I challenge you to walk on the streets? Just go on the streets. I know a lot of governors that can't walk on the streets of their town.
I walk on the street. I drive myself on the street. And
you see things.
I see things. I drive, I stop, I chat with people, I go to the market. I am known to do all this. I may not do it in the silly, opportunistic manner of a politician who is just looking for a quick attention. But when I do it, people know I do it for a purpose. And they come to me to genuinely complain about one or two things.
They engage you.
They engage me. The drainage in our street is not of the right quality. We think you should talk to the contractor. we want you to come and look at the flooded plain here. Our products, we find it difficult to bring it to the market because the road from the farmstead is not motorable. They engage me and they really enjoy engaging me. I mean, I've been going around monitoring these schools over the last few weeks. And every time I get to a community, because this is happening all over the state, every time I get to a community, they come out in their hundreds. Somehow they get to know, even though I don't use siren, I drive myself in a normal vehicle. I try to limit the number of people who come with me, which is a problem for my security people because they think I'm endangering myself and exposing myself. So and people really like that. They want to be able to engage the leaders.
Want to be approachable.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely key to really relate and demystify this office, these excellencies and
executive governor.
because at the end of the day, this is just a job like any other job. Yes, there are associated benefits and paraphernalia of office that come with it, but outside of that, it's just a job.
So in building a place like this, do you get special deals with the companies?
We got special deals with Tower, for example, because it's huge. The kids love it. That's the other thing. They love the color, and we're happy that they're happy. The last time I was here just to inspect, they had just come back to school. They couldn't believe it because they left here in July. They left in July on the long vacation, and they came back to find this. It was like manna dropping from heaven.
This is a secondary school.
It's a secondary school. It's an old secondary school.
I see founded in 1967.
Right, 45 years. So it was first a mission school. It was a Catholic mission school. It was then taken over by the government.
Yes.
But not until we did this, it's not seen any touch of paint, any coat of paint in at least 30 years. It's completely run down, and when we decided on this initiative, the old students were very pleased. They came to me to say, well, they too have been struggling to put something together for it, which for me is really the other critical element. Government must lead, but government cannot do everything. I mean, part of the joy of having gone through a school like this that has produced so many distinguished Ekiti citizens is that they also should be able to put back, of course within the limits of their resources, in a manner that would enhance not just the quality of the education here, but the aesthetic beauty of the school itself. And that's what has been achieved with this. So far, we can drive down to Ikogosi so that we see what we're trying to do there. And we call it the hub of our tourism corridor. The idea is that we use that to pull people in order to discover what you've discovered, these rolling hills. And when they see it, they have ideas about it for bungee jumping, for rock climbing, for all sorts of things. So, because we're going to link to that the cable car to the waterfalls in Ikwele Iloro. And also, we have a planned games reserve right next to the Warm Spring Resort, as well as the opportunity for people to then go around the state in package tours. From Ikogosi to the waterfalls, from the waterfalls to the Olosun Taorole Hills, where they can really do active mountain climbing, bungee jumping, and to the Ogunonire festival, and also all the historical artifacts in the state. So we do have that on the agenda. That's very strong on the agenda. I mean, we had the first Festival of the Arts and Culture this year.
How did that go?
It went very well. This is after it's been stopped for 7-8 years. It's like the clock of progress stopped in the state when Ottomani Adebayo left office.
Yes.
And the guys that came after were just carpetbaggers, pretty much. And it's sad that that's what we were saddled with.
Yes.
And that's why we must really make a difference for people to know that governance is about the people.
Yeah.
It's about putting people first. It's about renewing infrastructures for the benefit of the people. It's about investing in the future of our children and ultimately being accountable to the people who have put us in office.
From there, we're moving on to Ikogosi. That is a tourist attraction. About 18 months ago, I know that there was nothing on the ground to encourage anyone to come back. I'm interested to see what innovations Governor Fayemi has put in place or is putting in place to make it attractive, because Ekiti is surrounded by hills, and I can't stop thinking about rock climbing and hill climbing and bungee jumping as an attraction for a lot of tourists who would like to come in from overseas. Welcome to Ikogosi Spring Resort, where I'm told there is a spot where warm water and cold water will meet. I'm looking forward to sitting there and touching the water.
You can't explain it.
Excellency, are you sure there is no freezer somewhere? This is nice.
I'm sure the two waters, even when they mix, they're separated.
No, they are separated.
They don't mix.
No.
The thermal identity remains warm and cold next to each other, which is unusual.
And you can see that even the speed with which they
It's different.
progress.
And the coloration on the rocks and all that sort of stuff as well.
This is, see, this should actually be Winch Town. This is witchcrafting.
No, but you know, talking about that, the people, the community people,
Yes.
they believe that this is the solution of all problems. If you
Get the water and
if
bathe
you are
with it.
not getting pregnant quick enough, you come here, you pray, you drink the water from source, and the belief is next time around you're good to go.
Twins and all.
Exactly, twins and all.
This is the source of twins.
Maybe. Maybe.
It's tapped from the source, brought here, so it's coming in. That's warm spring water.
It's not, it's not that you built a pool.
No. We built a pool, but the water is coming
From the spring.
from the spring.
How long is all this work going to take?
How long? John?
Obviously, there's certain sections that are still in phase progress. We're looking to commission the bulk of the 3-star rooms here in the middle of December. Okay. And then the 5-star, which you'll see shortly on our way up. Some of those units, at least 2 of those units, are also in mind at this stage. And this is where Ian and his team from Moret Interiors are on site with us to have a look at all of those processes. But the idea being is that we have a central node open for some trade now from the 15th of December. That's the plan.
We'll start creating the awareness.
Absolutely. That's the idea. And then the second phase that I talked about is the games reserve. As I said, Mantis is very well known for their expertise in running rural resorts and games reserves. The Shamwari Games Reserve is probably one of the most beautiful that I have been to. I've been to a couple. And I went there in the course of negotiating this relationship. I went there, met with Ian Gardiner, the founder of the Mantis collection. And the idea is that second phase would have a 10,000 hectares games reserve, which would restore the animals, fauna and flora that have been here before the place went pear-shaped, and make it a lot more attractive to people to also have a second reason beyond just wanting to stay after you've seen the warm spring.
Yeah, what's next?
Absolutely.
So there has to be some connection, and we have a waterfall that is not very far from here. The idea is it should be possible to put a cable car that would link the waterfall to this place.
Yeah.
And then the games reserve is there for wildlife attraction. There would be a theme park, and then a golf course and golf apartments that would accompany
So
that.
anyone coming here looking at spending like 2 weeks will have a lot to do.
You have a lot to do. You have a lot to do. That's the idea. And it can then, this would serve as a hub. There are other attractions in the state, but it could be arranged in such a way, and Mantis is also very good with package tours. In fact, I think they've just acquired one of the most successful...
Mr. Big Rolls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can have this as the hub of a range of activities that you're going to have. Coming to Ekiti, going to the hills.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about rock climbing and bungee jumping and stuff like that. So it would be
all related,
packaged in that one activity line.
What would you say is the main challenge with this project?
The main challenge, I think we've cracked that party. The problem that the project had in the past was government, and it wasn't managed well. And you cannot just depend on a single source of attraction in the hospitality industry and expect to make a headway. It must be a total package. And that's basically what we're trying to do now, to link this to all those set of activities, and then to minimize the role of government in it as much as possible.
So is this
let the professional run it. Yeah, it's a management contract. I mean, so Mantis is responsible for everything to do with running the place. We would meet our obligations in terms of infrastructure for the place, in terms of ensuring that security is provided, which is key, in terms of also ensuring that we encourage as many people to visit as possible. When they get here, it's no longer my business. It becomes John's cup of tea.
Will you be employing people locally from within?
Very, very much. Obviously, the impact downstream of the resort and development of this magnitude has great benefication to the folks living immediately around the surrounds. There's downstream economic advantage as well for people looking to get involved from business and supply chain perspective. The game reserve, of course, will have another impact as well. And yes, we're looking at around about 102 staff full-time on site, give or take a few. But that's from top management all the way through down to the junior levels of staff. A very important consideration, of course, is the mentorship and training to bring people to the levels of 3-star and 5-star training and service to our levels that we're used to, and to mentor those folks going forward, because this is very important to leave as a legacy, of course, to the future generations coming down behind us. So.
And that's where I was going to the training. You know, we're going to have to change the orientation of our people, not to see visitors as an opportunity to make a quick buck.
Well, they should want to make a buck. That's not necessarily a bad idea. It is to work for the buck that they make that matters to us. And that's why, as much as possible, we're encouraging Mantis, we're encouraging the construction people to include and involve our people as much as possible. I go to the communities myself. Every time I come here, I ask them, how many local people are here? Who is from this community working with those doing the thatched roof? Who is working with the people, the engineers and the builders here? Who is working with the construction company tarring the road? Because for us, the only way this is going to gain total legitimacy is not for our people to think it has just been dropped on them and it's outsiders.
They have to own it.
They must take ownership of this place. And they have taken ownership. Every time I come here, they come and tell me bits and pieces about what they think is good and not good, and where they think they should be involved or not. And I think ultimately our vision is that it would also be possible to put some kind of hospitality training facility around it that can service even the capital.
Other states.
Because the capital itself is challenged by the quality of service rendered in our various hotels in Ekiti. And would like to think that the presence of Mantis here and their own expertise and experience will rub off positively on all of the other facets of our economy, particularly in the hospitality sector.
Wonderful. Nice work you're doing.
Well, we're very blessed, and I always say that it's thanks to His Excellency's vision at the end of the day as well in leading these projects.
Was that important that he had a vision?
Absolutely. It's very important, I think, to all of the citizens of Ekiti State, and all the interested and affected parties involved, to have someone of His Excellency's leadership and stature driving these drivers. As I said, tourism is a very strong mechanism to uplift areas and communities. But you have to have vision and planning and foresight and understanding, which we congratulate him on that. So we're very happy to be here.
Well, that's it for this week. Don't forget to keep a date with me. Same time, same day, same station. You never know who I'll be spending 60 minutes with. I'm Angela Ajetumobi, and I thank you for the pleasure of your company.